Can I just go ahead with my piece, and then Sheldon, you can get this worked out and then fit in between the two, in between the models.
Okay.
Okay, so I switch to you, Paula?
Yes, please. Try not to make this painful. Okay, so you guys have already had initial training, and so this is really just a follow-up. We've made some revisions and corrected some things within the model. So we're going to start with what we have called the Own Model tool. So just as a refresher, this is going to be the tool that you would use if you're adding capacity, if you have a new facility going in, or you could also use it to test scenarios with taking links out. Anything where you could actually go in and modify your roadway network and run the travel demand model, this is the tool that you would be using. Okay, so we'll start up here with the start analysis. And once again, this is just a quick kind of step-by-step to let you know what all the tabs are doing. And it does follow along. Once you do this a few times, you're probably not going to have your user's guide right beside you, but this could be that quick kind of refresher card here for you. So if we go in with the parameters page here, once again, what you're going to do is in this set of boxes marked parameters where you have your project name, your model save file, and your REMI and your M-plan save file, and your GIS output. This is really where you're going to be setting up the project. So this is where you're going to name it. So we're just going to do this as FEAT Training August 1. Okay, and then for the model save path, the user's guide takes you through a very detailed step-by-step on what to do, and it has you setting up separate folders for each and every one of these. This is really just a matter of user's preference. So you're going to create a file, a path, just like you would for anything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to keep this under my FEAT folder. I'm going to create a new folder for training on August 1st. So this is where I'm going to tell the model to save all of my files associated with this session. So you type it in there, you hit the bar, and you're just going to do a copy and paste. Okay, now this is one of the things that we've put in the user guide, and I'll remind everyone here, is that once you paste it, you need to go in and add another backslash. If you fail to do this, it still saves it, but it just saves it one level up from where you put in here. So it can get a little confusing, and we have found that users have trouble finding their files if we don't add in that step. So, and then I just put all of my files in the same folder so that I'll have all of my files associated with this within a single folder, okay? So this is just telling it the project name, and these are the save paths for when these files are generated. They will be saved to these locations here, okay? Once again, this is one of those pages where you need to scroll down. Just another little helpful hint, and we have included this in the user's guide, is that you want to make sure that you use these scroll bars because most of these sheets extend far beyond what you're actually able to view on the screen. So just a rule of thumb here, anything in the orange throughout the spreadsheet here, or this kind of peach color, is indicative of a drop-down box. So that means that there's a selection that you need to make here, okay? So here you have the opportunity whenever you're looking at the wage rates, which will be used in the calculation of the value of time. You can choose either county level or you can choose state average. So we'll use county level here. Everything else down here are just the assumptions and the value, and we do have, again, the unit, the mode, and then the source and any directions that are there. Okay. Again, there's more detailed information. What's the information that is provided in the in F, column F, there's more detailed information on those comments within the methodology report that was delivered at the end of last year. So the next set of boxes, if it's in blue, that just means there's really nothing that you have to do there. It's just some assumptions that are being used throughout the analysis here. Okay. So then we get down to the simulation options. This is where you have to select for each parameter, okay? So this is really where the user is going to set up the parameters that are going to drive the analysis within the tool, okay? So choose between REMI or M-Plan. We have, as to my knowledge, we have 4 REMI states, and that's Louisiana, Georgia, Mississippi, and Florida. And then the rest are going to be M-Plan states, although some have neither model. And so if you do not currently have an economic model, or in the case of Eric Johnson, if you're on, I know you guys are using Tretis. That's also a county level model. We set everything else up as county level. Okay, so for this example, I'm going to be using Mississippi data. I actually sent them a REMI file earlier or last week, and they were able to run it within their tool and send me the output back. So we'll be able
Paula,
to. Yes.
If you're like Eric using Tretis, and it says choose REMI or M-Plan, which one should we choose?
You really should use M-Plan because that'll give you the county level. I know in Missouri we're actually using M-Plan on the port study. So
yeah, I was just verifying because we're using Tretis for some other stuff. We've purchased.
Oh, okay.
I'm just checking. Thank you.
Right, right. So with the Tretis, Cheryl, Tretis already has a front end that's doing a lot of what this is doing, and then it plugs into M-Plan. So Tretis model already kind of has all of this together. So so I think that this is something that can allow you to go in, and if you want to do like a quick benefit cost. But in working with Tretis, we don't have the macro to be able. Tretis doesn't open up to let you be able to just import that into the economic component of it. So happy to talk with you about that in more detail. Eric and I've had a few conversations on it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. And so then here's the choose between you can either choose regions or counties. A lot of the REMI models have multiple counties together in a REMI region, so that's the reason it says regions or counties. Or you can use a state total. And I know for Louisiana, for example, their REMI model is just one statewide, so their whole state is a single region, and so they would use the statewide totals. Okay. So, and then we're going to use, this is the drop-down menu of the state, and so we're going to use Mississippi, and then we're going to go down and we're going to continue to look at the data that's here. For the travel demand model base year, I believe we have a 2013. The forecast year is 2040. You can put in an interim year. So there's going to be a date here, but if you don't have interim year data, then actually down here is where you tell it if you're actually going to use the interim year data or not. And we will get to that. This right here, are we going to use that? So here we're going to select no. So it'll still show a year in that drop-down box, but we're not actually going to use it in the calculation. Okay. The starting year analysis, we'll keep that set at 2020. You can start this really at any year for which any year beyond what the travel demand base year is. The end of the analysis year is 2040. So here you have a construction start year and a construction end year, and then you have an opening year of infrastructure. And then this is your REMI base year. All right, we've already said that no, we're not going to be using the interim year. And then for the use daily or the time of day, this is going to depend upon your travel demand model. It's going to dictate what you provide in here. If you have an average annual daily model, then you're going to use daily. If you have a model that gives you peak and non-peak travel, then you're going to use the peak and off-peak. Okay, so for Mississippi, that's a daily model. Okay, and then here's the estimate fatality impacts, which is really putting an estimate on the change in the fatalities. And so you can toggle that on for yes or no. If you're using this for federal grant purposes, you want to choose yes. And then here's user-defined or the default crash rates, and so we're going to leave that at the default. And then if you do use the user-defined, then this is where you would enter those user-defined here. And this comes in handy since we're doing a statewide analysis. We're just using the default for the statewide crash rates. But if you're doing an analysis on a specific facility and you have facility-specific crash rates, that's really when you would want to use override the default and do the user-defined. Okay. And then for emissions, include the federal emission standards, which is really the greenhouse gas. Normally, you're going to include this only for your federal grants. You can include it. There's nothing saying that you can't, but given the global nature, typically a lot of states will not include this in their state-specific benefit cost analysis. But we can leave it toggled on for now. So once you have all of those filled in, you then need to go back and confirm the selection. So it will take a few minutes once you confirm selection for this to set everything up. So we'll go ahead and hit that, and then this will give us time to pause for any questions or comments from anyone.
Paula, this is Bruce.
Yes.
So basically, I'm following along with the user's guide, and it's very helpful, by the way. So my compliments to you. And so basically, where would they put the shift stuff in? Is that in a separate module, or?
That's going to be in the very next step.
Oh, well, I'm glad that I was able to cue you up. Okay, sorry.
Right. No, that's fine. So again, and I've been really abusing my laptop here, so it's running a little slow. It's gotten angry at me trying to run so many large files lately, so, and being turned on nonstop. So you can see that it's still working here. And what it's basically doing is it's telling what sheets need to be made visible within here, because there's a lot of hidden sheets, and then it's also populating with the Mississippi-specific data, such as their regions and everything, okay? But it looks like it's finished now, so then we can proceed to step 2, okay? So this is where we're going to enter the travel demand data. Now, this doesn't look like it's supposed to, so you might freak out, but don't forget that I told you to look at these slider bars here. And so what we need to do is just make sure that we're up here all the way over when you get onto this page. Otherwise, you might get over here and you might be over here and you're like, well, wait a minute, it didn't populate with my regions or anything. So if you see that, even though it looks like it's all the way in the corner, some of these tables are so large that it goes a long way, so because they have to accommodate county level too, and some of our states have a lot of counties. So just make sure that you're all the way over here in the corner lined up with this one when you get onto this sheet, okay? So this is where you're going to enter your travel demand modeling output, okay? So once again, if you're using the shift model, this is where that shift model data would go. But as I said, we are using some Mississippi data, so we're going to go back in here and pull up the input for the Mississippi data. So, and once again, these input sheets are this. Okay, so here what we're going to do, this is my input data, and you'll notice that this sheet looks just like the sheet from the tool itself. Okay, so what we're going to do is here we're going to pull the data from the No Build 2013. So you're going to take this all the way across, make sure that you're capturing all of the regions. And then you're just going to do a simple copy and paste. And once again, you want to make sure we got the No Build 2013, that you're putting the right data in the right place. Okay. We said we were not going to use the interim year data, so the next group of data that we need is going to be the No Build 2040 and the Build 2013. Okay. So we can pull the no build 2040, and since the build 2013 is right here below it, we're going to go ahead and pull that data as well, so that just reduces one extra cut and paste activity. Again, making sure that we're starting with region 1 and that it's going in and making sure, and then there's our build 2013. And so then finally, we need to go back and grab the build 2040 data. Okay. All right. So just to do I'd like to do just a quick check here that we've got our data in. It looks like we've got our data where it's supposed to be. Okay. Once this is in, you click here to calculate the benefits. And once again, this is starting to populate all of those other sheets, all of the step 2C, the step 3A, 3B, and 3C. So it's going to take a while, and you'll see right down here where it says calculating, and it'll give you kind of a percentage that'll tell you how you're progressing. Of course, if you have a super performing machine, it's not going to take as long. But if you're working off from a Microsoft Surface, you're probably not going to run this spreadsheet. Any questions on the entering of the data? Okay. All right. So this then, once the calculation is done, it automatically answers you to this annualized travel demand. And so here, what you'll see here is you'll see your no build. This is the data that it has. This is the region, and here are the years of the data. And you'll have the auto leisure, auto commute, auto business, and the truck data down through there. And then you're going to have the build for the same county, and then you're going to have the difference. So this becomes a very large spreadsheet in here. And if you have the interim year in there, then that means that you're going to have the no build and the build, and you're going to have what the interim year data does. You notice we entered 2 years of data, but now we have annualized data. So what it's done, what the spreadsheet is doing is it's just interpolating between your base year and your build year to give you annualized data. And then if you have that interim year, what it does is it interpolates between the base year and the interim year and uses that average annual change to fill in the annual, and then it would interpolate between your interim year and your final year, and that may or may not give you a different kind of average annual change to do those interpolations. Okay, so you're just going to look down through there, and you'll see this is really the sheet from which all the other calculations are then based. Okay. Now, a careful thing to note here is that if you get over here, you'll notice that there are things in these columns and everything. You want to make sure that you don't go in and do a clean delete on any of this stuff, because a lot of it has stuff that we've hidden away in those cells that are used within the macros or within some of the formulas, and they're used for references and everything to make sure that things line up properly. So if you go in and you delete anything from the sheet, there is the potential that you're going to mess up some of the formulas.
So, Paula, you're challenging everybody now to mess up all the Excel charts?
No, I'm just warning. One thing that we do recommend is that you do keep a clean version of the tool and protect it, password protect it, just so that you can always, if something does get messed up, you can go back to that protected version. All right, and so then the next few tabs really are just there to kind of show you the overall calculation, and it does allow you, these are really there to kind of go in and start to do any sort of QA/QC or troubleshooting. If you get to the end and there's one of your benefit streams just doesn't seem right, this provides you all the detail to go back and dig underneath it. And then here's the emissions. And I know that when we did our training in Savannah, we had some issues with the emissions. They weren't calculating correctly, but that's all been corrected now. And then here's the user costs. And so you can see here, we're still keeping everything separated based upon the trip type, whether it's business, commute, leisure, or truck. But you can see all of the kind of intermediate data. We wanted this to be as transparent as possible. So this is in the sheet that really feeds into the benefit cost analysis, so we can go into there. So for the benefit costs here, you have all of your benefits in here. What you don't have yet are your costs. And so this is where you would need to go in and enter some costs. So I have made up some costs. If you remember where I put those. Okay, well, we're going to enter some cost in here. I thought I had preloaded some costs, but no. Oh, one other thing up here too is your toggle switch for your discount rate. So you can toggle it between 3% and 7%. And so the reason that we're doing this because once again with the federal grants you're required to use 7, but you're permitted to also present it with 3%. And so by doing this, you could go through the steps and do everything. And then get your information that you need, and then by hitting a single toggle and letting it recalculate, it would give you the other version of it. So. I think it's going to make you guys spend a little bit more money than that. And then we'll just carry the O&M cost out to the end of the forecast period. Okay, so let's see what this gives us now. So if we go down through here are your undiscounted benefits. So this is really taking it straight from the spreadsheet. So you can see your safety. We included the statistical life. You have injuries. You have property damage only. Here are your emissions for your autos and your emissions for your truck. We singled those out since this was having a focus on freight. And then you also have your fuel costs and your vehicle operating costs, and then your value of time. And so then when you get down to the results, you have your undiscounted costs and your undiscounted benefits, and then we actually discount these. So obviously, I didn't put in enough cost up there because we're getting a benefit cost ratio of 358.3 to 1. And so what this is telling you when it shows up in red like this is that there's an error there, that's just really outside of the normal range. Or maybe I'll put in too much cost. Nope, that made it worse. So anyway, I don't have enough cost in there, but you can see that we did put some fail-safes in there. And if you start to get into really like above 13 to 1, that's when we start to put in the error message there. Okay. So then we can proceed to summary, and we've revamped kind of the look of these a little bit and the ordering of it. So the table A is just the analysis parameter summary, and this just kind of reminds you of what you've actually used in there as some of your key parameters and assumptions. And then this is the discounted benefits by your region or your county. So this is going to be based upon the makeup of your REMI model, so that you can get that kind of geographic. And then this is the total, the benefit cost results here. And you'll notice here that because we do have an arrow in that it's showing up as 0. So it's not going to report it as long as you're showing an arrow over here. Okay, and then here we actually single out the safety and the environmental benefits into its own table as well. Okay. So once you've reviewed that, you can then go to step 4. And this, again, this is where you start setting up. In this case, this is setting up for REMI, for the M-Plan users. This would be setting up for M-Plan. And you can see where the data has been populated over here. And here, remember, we said we wanted to start the analysis in year 2020. So this is only going to show data starting in 2020. Okay. So then you can proceed to step 5. And then step 5 is just the same input, but this is for trucks. So once again, we've separated out the input for autos and the input for trucks so that you can take a look at that and troubleshoot it. Once it goes into the REMI model, it starts to get combined for that. So then we can proceed to step A, and this is where you're actually going to create your sheet for your input to the REMI model. Okay. So you're going to run your saving macro here, and this will take a couple of minutes. So a couple of things are happening here. You're saving the input sheet, but you're also saving this model under a new name in those file locations that you identified in the very beginning. And you'll notice up at the top here, mine's saying that's not responding. It is. It's just working. So, okay. So what's happened now is that the model closed. So the only thing that you're seeing here was that initial travel demand model input sheet. We don't need that anymore, so we can close that out. And so what you need to do now is you can go back in and go back to the folder where you told it to save everything, and there's your model. So it's saved as the FEAT training August 1, so it picked up the project name that I put in there, and then this is your REMI input sheet. So you can go ahead and open your model up again, because we're going to use that again once we run the economic model. While that's opening, we'll also go ahead and open up your REMI input file. It's just going to be a text file, and it's going to look like this. Okay. So your next step then would be to go to your economic model, and I do have a Transite Mississippi model here. It lets me upload the file, but my code has expired, so I can't actually run the model, and we don't need to sit here while the model runs, but I do have an output file, so I can show you what it is. So here with opening up REMI, we're going to do a standard, we're just going to do a regional simulation. So you click on that. Here is where you give it, you can give it the name, so it can be FEAT training August 1. I try to keep whatever I've named my project in my FEAT tool the same as what I named my project here within the within the REMI model. And here is just where you pick your years that you're going to run it from. So we said 2040 was going to be our forecast year. Then the only thing that you have to do is go to this import button. And so we're going to want to go back to that location where we told the FEAT tool to actually save the input file, and then we're going to just click that on and hit open. Oh, forgot. Mississippi, you guys have a little fix on yours. Georgia, you do not have to do this, but I've worked with REMI to try to get an automated fix, and they actually just suggested a manual fix to this. So for Mississippi, and I did put this in the user guide, when this prints the file, it's printing too many lines because we had to create the file to print enough lines to pick up the state with the most number of regions. And so that means that you guys have extra lines in your file, and your version of model doesn't know what to do with those extra lines. So you have to actually go into this text file and just go all the way down and just delete those lines. Okay, so then once you do that, you can save it. So you didn't delete your data, you just deleted some blank lines. Okay. So now,
Paul, that was done for us whenever you sent that original input file to load?
yes.
Okay.
I'm still working with REMI to see if we can't come up with something we can plug into the macro that would be more of a loop that would tell it when to stop so that we don't have to do that manual switch. And if they can come up with something down the road, then that can be added to the macro for your specific sheet. But you're the state that it impacts. He did send me something else, but we tried that and it didn't work. So the macro itself got stuck. So okay, so once all of your variables are in, once that file is loaded, if you're a REMI user, then you're going to get something that looks like this. Okay, so basically what this is telling you is these are the variables that are now being changed within the REMI model. So you had data in all of these different. So you have your production costs, your consumer spending, and then those different variables. From here, you would hit run. I don't have the code. It would take about 10 minutes or so for it to run. So we're just gonna once you run this, it then pops up a results screen, and you're just going to go up to the upper corner, and there will be an export, and you want to export all tables. And when you export all tables, you will then get a file that looks like this. Okay. So what you're going to do for your REMI users, you're going to go up here, and you're just going to copy. Go back to your FEAT tool, which we've reopened. You're going to go to step B, and then you're going to paste that right in there. And if you don't like the look of it, you can go to Paste Special and just use sourcing theme, and then it'll make it look just like it did coming out of REMI. Okay. Then you hit that button, and then this is one of the additions where we have the summary, where it summarizes all the information in the REMI table. Okay. So once again, this gives you the summary parameters that you've used, and then these are your summary impact results over here. Okay. And then for those of you that are using ArcGIS, you can use create the GIS file, and then you have the files here for that. And then there's step-through instructions on how to do that. And the other thing that you'll note is, once again, your spreadsheet up here, it's retained the name of your project. So that means that your clean spreadsheet is still where you had it saved. And so when you save this one, it will be saved specific for this scenario that you ran. Okay. So questions or comments? All right. If not, then Sheldon, are you ready to go now?
I think I should be ready now. I just disconnected the extra screen.
And I think just these folks have already had training on the shift model.
Oh.
Yeah, try going to the people and then clicking on my name and see if you can make me the presenter.
Okay. Okay, right. Did that work?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, should be seeing the FEAT tool. Does everyone see that?
I see it. It's in Excel.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a screen of Paul in the upper left-hand corner, so. I see it. I don't know if everybody else sees it.
They must be on mute.
Okay.
Oh, someone's not. Someone's having a party.
No, that's my other phone.
I was going to say, sounds like more fun than what I'm about to do.
Yeah. Actually, I found a punk rock version of the Hallelujah chorus. So.
All right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started, and so we're going to go through the first two tools which you guys saw a preview of in Savannah. So this is once again, we're going to start with what we've called our own model tool, and basically this is the tool that you would use for any project or package of projects for which you can code into your network and run your travel demand model to evaluate the impacts of. Okay. So these are projects, once again, that can be evaluated with the travel demand model, hence the on-model tool, okay? So when we would start the analysis here, it's going to wake up here a little bit. And once again, we've included kind of this first sheet here. It's going to be just a quick reference guide. Hopefully, once you go through this a few times, if you're using it on a regular basis, you may become familiar, so you're not going to necessarily have your user's guide right there with you, but this would be a quick reference just to tell you again what each of these tabs are going to do. There's also notes on the bottom here that if it is in orange, that these are user-required selections, but there's a drop-down box that you will select from. If it is in green, then it's direct user-required input. Okay. So then we can and you can go to any of these buttons, any of these tabs here just by clicking on the button. So we're going to start with tab 1. I was going to try to do an Arkansas example today since I knew that they were going to be on the phone, but I didn't have I couldn't find any travel demand modeling output that was ready to be used. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed using the Mississippi data, but I'm happy to do another call if we can get some Arkansas output, and I can work with Sheldon because I know he's done some model runs in the past. I should have checked on that earlier in the week to get that prepared and everything, but we can certainly do that for you guys if you'd like.
Paula, do you want to hold off on that until we do that final call at the end of the month that we were talking about?
Yeah, that'll be fine. We can do that. All right, so here, once again, you set up your parameters. This is really setting up where you're going to add in the names and some saved files so that whenever this thing goes to save some files, you're telling it where you want it to save your files, okay? So project name, we're just going to do training August 3rd here, okay? For the model save file, you can just go in, and I already have a training August 3rd folder. So I'm going to copy that and paste it. Now, one change that I did make, I will be uploading slightly revised versions of these spreadsheet files, but I didn't want to confuse people and do it between the two training versions. But one of the things was, if you recall, and I'll make the change in the user guide as well, previously you had to go back up here and add in a backslash. I've eliminated the need to do that and just built that into the macro itself. Okay, so now what I do is you can either, your user guide actually goes through a pretty detailed process of setting up separate folders for each one of these file save paths, and if that's the way you want to organize it, you can do so. This is really up to the user on how they choose to organize their files. I tend to just put all of mine in the same folder so that I'll have all of mine coming together into this one folder. And so by doing it that way, I can simply do a copy and paste to put the same file path in all of these blocks. But you can have those separated if you like. Okay. So once you get that part done, then you want to make sure, and again, you saw me kind of use my slide bars here. You want to make sure that you always check and make sure that these slide bars are all the way over when you start on a sheet. So then you come down through here. Once again, you're looking for anything that is orange or anything that is green, because those are where the user has to make a selection. Okay, so for the passenger wage, again, that's in a orange, so you can use county level wage rates or you can use state average wage rates. So it really just depends. What I think that you should probably guide this on, for example, I know that with Louisiana, they have a single region REMI model, so they just use a statewide. Their whole state is one single region, so they would probably want to use the statewide average standard here. Everyone else, you would more than likely be using the county, because even if you're evaluating a project that crosses a lot of counties, or maybe you have statewide projects, the fact that this is being driven off from your travel demand model, your travel demand model data is going to be aggregated to the county level. So you'll still get your changes by county or by REMI region. If it's by REMI region, then what using county level wages actually uses an average of those counties that may comprise a single region. Okay, so most of the time for this, you're going to be using the county level, but we did give you the option to use the statewide level. Okay. The other items down here are some assumptions there, and so we give you kind of the value, the units, and then another little descriptor here if it's a mode or a specific type, and then we also give you some sources and some potential direction if you need to, like for example here where we have the annualization factors. These are kind of industry standards that we've used here, so it just tells you why we've selected what we've selected here. Okay, so if you go down through here, so again, you have your values in terms of occupancy rates, vehicle operating costs there. You also have your annualization factors for your commute and business, your leisure and your trucks, and then just your conversion factors for your grams to metric tons and long tons. The next, you come down through here, you have your crash cost and your emission cost here. You do have the ability to go in and you know, make some changes to these if you like. You can see here it says safety. There's a lot of sheets that contain the data for this that are hidden. So by going in and looking at those hidden tables, if you want to use, instead of using the source of data, if you want to use your state-specific data, you can add that and then just to have these cells refer to that data. All right, so then when you get into the simulation options down here, this is where you have orange and green, so you're going to have to make a selection here. So the options are to choose between REMI and M-Plan. So we're using Mississippi. They use a REMI model here. And then choose between the states or the region. So again, we have regions here, and so we'll use the region. Our state selection is going to be Mississippi. And then your travel demand model base year, you just have your drop-down menu to select the base year for your travel demand model. And then your future years, it can actually go beyond 2040 if you're in the process of updating that travel demand model. I know a few states have updated to 2045. The travel demand model interim year, you're going to enter a number, or you can say none here. But even if you enter a number and you're not going to use it, you'll have the option down here to say yes or no. Okay, and then so we'll have our starting analysis year. This is the year in which you want the benefits or the impacts to actually start to be analyzed. Okay, so by selecting this, even though you may have travel demand model data in there for previous years, it's not going to actually start your benefit calculation and your impact calculation, and therefore produce the data for your economic model, your REMI model, until the year that's in this box right here. And then you have your end analysis. So you can, the next is your construction start year and your construction end year, and then your opening year of infrastructure. Okay, and then only if you're using the REMI model here, you would put in your REMI. And here's a little note here that where you can actually find that information on your REMI model if you're not familiar with that. Okay, so then once again, you can go down here. This is your interim model, and then this is use your daily or your time of day model runs. Most statewide models are daily. However, Arkansas, you do have a time of day, so then you would use the peak and the off-peak. And then we also included a toggle switch here for including the fatality impacts, which is actually putting a value based upon the statistical value of a life. So you can toggle that yes or no. If you're doing this for federal grants, you'll want to toggle yes. And then use user-defined or default crash rates. If you're going to use user-defined, then you have to fill them in here. I would recommend using user-defined if you're on a specific facility, if you're evaluating one project and it's a specific facility for which you know what the crash rates are, or because of the type of facility, then you can enter facility type specific crash rates. Otherwise, the user-defined are going to be just your statewide crash rate. Okay. And then the federal emission standards, again, there's a toggle switch here for yes or no on that. And once again, if you're using this for federal grant purposes, you'll want to keep that toggled on to yes. All right, so before we proceed with our confirming the set, or we can do that, and it'll take it a minute to run, you always want to confirm your selection, because what this does is it populates the model with the remaining tool, makes visible the worksheets that are relevant. So since we're using a REMI, it's going to populate and make visible the REMI input and the REMI output sheet. If you're using MPlan, it would be the MPlan input and the MPlan output sheets. And then it also populates your travel demand model data and all the rest of your sheets with your correct region names. So any questions or comments? While we're waiting on this? And don't forget, if you're speaking and I'm not responding, you may be on mute.
Hi, Paul. It's Travis.
Yes.
See at the bottom of the sheet, there's some text. Is that just legacy text? It's got discount rates and such at the bottom.
I would not, do not delete any of that text. We have some hidden text and some hidden numbers throughout the spreadsheets. Those are sometimes used to index sheets, and they may be used in the formulas. So,
okay.
That's a good point. Thank you. Okay, so it looks like we, okay, so once it stops processing, you know that you're ready, and we can proceed to step A. So you're like, well, wait a minute, I don't see, any county names or anything. So don't forget that you have to go, even though these may look like they're all the way over, doesn't necessarily guarantee it. So as we start to go over and get to the very corner, then we start to see this region number 1 and a region name. So if you come to this sheet and it's all blank up there, then you know that you need to toggle and get all the way over to the left-hand side, to that column D, okay? All right, so for here, we're going to go in and pick up we need some input data now. Let's see where I have this input data. Here we go. Okay, so this is going to be the data that we're going to use for input for the Mississippi example. So first of all, you want to look, so we have a no build, a build, and we don't have any interim year data, okay? So then we're going to want to, this is where we're going to do the copy and the paste. So we'll take from the input sheet, and then we're going to go to the model sheet here. And so we know that since our 2040 and our build scenarios are back-to-back on our model sheet, we can actually copy and paste both of those in one move. Just want to make sure that we put it down here in the 2040 and not the 2030. And then we can scroll down and see it populated the no build 2040 and then the build. Okay, and then we'll come and get our build 2040 data here. Okay, so just kind of checking our data and seeing that we have it in there. Make sure we go up and we have data where we're supposed to, and we don't have it where we're not supposed to. So we go all the way through our regions, and we have it in the years that we're supposed to. So at this point, we'll click there, and then you'll see down here on the bottom, on the ribbon, where it's telling you that it's calculating. And depending upon your machine and the speed of it, it'll go faster or slower. And if it's really slow and clunky, then it may just stop it.
Oh, you don't have a script that plays like Muzak or something like that while it's waiting?
I know. I should have. I thought that was your role.
Okay.
You'll see, once it's finished, then it's going to automatically advance you to this step 2C, which is the annualized travel demand. So you'll notice that we put in 2 years of data. So we had we put in for a 2010 and we put in for a 2040. And now it's taken those 2 years of data and it's interpolated between those 2 years so that we get an annualized stream of data here. And you'll notice over here, I think, Travis, what you're talking about before, we have some of this data. In some places, we have it actually grayed out so you don't see it, but this is actually being referenced in some of the formulas and everything. So, you know, don't go in and just do a clear cut or or a delete on any of these pages because there's some things that are hidden in there that's needed for calculation purposes. Okay, so what you're going to see here is that, again, it will line up your regions. It's going to give you your build by year, your no build by year, and then you'll come down here and you'll see your differences. There's nothing that you as the user have to do on this page. It's really there for the detail that if you get somewhere and something just doesn't look right to you, it allows you to kind of go back and see what's going on here. And so these next few sheets are really those interim calculation sheets to provide those interim steps and the data that can be used for troubleshooting, or really providing a little more detail in terms of the aggregate results that'll show up in the reports. Okay, so this sheet then becomes the sheet that really drives the calculations all the way through the benefit cost analysis, okay? Because it is from this sheet that the safety, the emissions, and the user cost all pull from, and then the BCA pulls from each of these individual sheets. Oh. Sorry, it's doing us. Okay, so these next three buttons, again, just kind of walk you through the sheets here to show you what's going on. It's going to give you, again, by county, what the number of crashes here, and then the monetized value of that. So this is the only place where we're really showing the number of crashes for you. So when you look at the benefit cost, we're really just looking at the monetized value. But if you want to step back and say, well, what's the associated reduction in crashes? Then this is where you would find that information. And the same thing with the emissions. With the benefit cost, we're really concerned with the monetized value, but if you want to look at the actual reduction in the emittance themselves, then that's going to be found on this sheet. Okay. And then for the user cost, once again, this is really going to break it down into a lot of detail to give you a lot more detail in terms of the VMT, the VHT, the delay, and then it'll start to break it down into the fuel gallons, and then the fuel costs and the vehicle operating costs, and then finally the value of time. Okay, so this gives you a little more detail than, again, these summaries would give you. So then you can go to the benefit cost, and so this is where it's going to start to pull in all of your undiscounted benefits and then do the calculations for your benefit cost. This is also where you, the user, you're going to have to enter in some cost information up here. And once again, you have your toggle switch, and this is your discount rate, so you can toggle between 3% and 7%. And the reason we've included both of those is because for the grant application process, you're required to use 7%, but they also permit you to present the same information using a more realistic discount rate of 3%. Okay, so we can just, I don't have actual cost information that would go with this, this sample data, but we can go ahead and start to enter some in up here. So let's just say this was for a statewide STIP. So let's just say that on average, they're going to spend $600 million for their STIP. And we said the construction period was going to be 3 years. And then there'll be some ongoing operations and maintenance from that particular. So we'll just say it's going to be $1.5 million. And I have no clue what this is going to end up looking like. So we just went through 2040. So then you'll see that it's populating over there with your cost data. And then it's going to finish populating down here with the results with your undiscounted cost, your undiscounted benefits. And then all of a sudden you have both, and you get a benefit cost ratio of 4.6 and an internal rate of return of 47%. Okay. When you go over here, again, these are your summary reports from your benefit cost analysis. Table A just gives you a summary of what's included. So your start year, your end year, the total number of years. This is the discount rate that you used and some of your other kind of parameter setup. So this is all pulling from that step 1 parameters. And then table B gives you your discounted benefits by your regions here. and it'll break it down by your different benefit classes here. So this will give you some geography to that. And then Table C rolls everything else up together. We've got some references here. Oh, yeah, those should just be... This jumped around a little bit on me there. Okay, there we go. So, and you'll notice here that we do have the freight logistics cost savings in there, and I forgot to mention this, Bruce, on the last, on the Tuesday's training call. But one of the things that we did since Savannah was we did go in and we added in the differentiated on that. If you look at the benefit cost, we have the freight logistics cost savings. And so what we've done there to calculate that is that since this has to cover a lot of states, and typically if you're doing a specific project, you're going to use a lot of stakeholder input to get at this estimation. But USDOT had issued some guidelines that said that kind of a rule of thumb was that that 15% of your total value of time savings was kind of a minimum level of logistics cost savings that you could expect. And so we've just incorporated the USDOT guidelines on this. And I did add that to the user's guide, so it is in there. And then Table D just gives you some of the detailed. It gives you the aggregate on some of those detailed information that we had talked about in terms of the number of crashes. But if you want to know by area, then you can actually go back to the sheets themselves. But at least we do summarize it here for you in total. Okay, so that really gets you through the benefit cost portions. That's going to be the same for all the states. So just I'll pause here and see if there's any questions or comments or concerns.
Hey, Paula, just a sidebar. I noticed that there are some of the links in this document are not defined. Like the link was messed up when you did the save, or it got moved. The actual Word document, not on the Excel chart.
Oh, the Word document.
Right.
When you say the link,
you have like some links to figures and some links to pages, and they're just not correctly coded.
Okay, I didn't know that I had links in the document actually.
No, it's just, like the figure's not correctly labeled.
Okay.
And then I was looking through it real quick. I was trying to see if there was actually the screen that you have here, that you have up on the one that shows table A, B, C, D. Is that table actually?
You know what? I changed the look of this, and I probably need to revise this screenshot.
Right.
This was organized a little differently, and the font was smaller, so I tried to make it a little more visually appealing. And I changed it because used to Table A, and then Table B was at the bottom of that, and you really didn't see hardly any of Table B. So I just moved them and changed the layout.
Okay. Well, what I'm saying is when you do the Table A, B, it'd be nice if you just had that screenshot in that Chapter 2.11.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I forgot to replace the screenshot there, so I will do that.
Okay.
I'm making a note right now.
Oh, I did the same. Okay. And then that's, okay. Well, back to the states, is this pretty self-explanatory? Are you getting what you need out of this so far? Do you understand the framework with this?
I understand the framework, seemingly, but, I have the whole model issue here, so my opinion is probably not that critical.
Well, the thing for me is I'm just trying to make sure that, I think Paula did a very good job of laying it out. I think the user guide follows through in the methodology report. And so I think overall we're in I mean, I'm happy with what you delivered, but again, I'm not the one who actually has to use this and take it to their boss. So.
No, and I think that, I mean, you know, there's things as we do any of these exercises, there's things that, you know, I always make notes of how I would want to improve it if, you know, we had more resources, if the budget would permit and stuff. I mean, there's ways to actually go in and automate the population of the travel demand model data by writing some scripts and stuff. And but I think that, you know, for $70,000, we really kind of pushed this to the limit, and we did put a lot of our own sweat equity and R&D and things to kind of be able to combine all the states into a single spreadsheet, because then the other problem we run into is that it starts to really test the limits of what Excel can do because we put so much into this single tool. So I think that, you know, there's some of those things that, you know, certainly if you have staff there that are, you know, very capable and knowledgeable with macros and stuff, there may be some things that you may want to do with your particular state, with your version of the tool, and do some enhancements. And it's developed in a way we've not hidden anything that we've done that would be transparent for you guys to be able to do that. So.
Paula, I think the tool it looks wonderful from this side. Not a modeler, so can't help that. I'm actually think for where we are currently in our world of taking care of the system and really just trying to do things like that, I kind of think from Missouri standpoint, the ops model is going to be what we will use very frequently, more so than the on model, just because of our unique situation.
Right. Well, and the ops model, I mean, you know, the good thing about it is you don't have to have a model to do that one. So
that's one of the reasons I think we'll be using it too.
All right, great. Okay. All right. Well, the next step then really gets into setting everything up for the actual economic model. Now, one of the key differences between IMPLAN and REMI, I'm sorry for the states using IMPLAN, you pay a heck of a lot less for your economic model, but it's a lot more work to use it. So, and it can be a little cumbersome. It is also a static model, so it's not going to do simulations and give you an annual stream of benefits. So what it's going to give you is you know, 1 year of benefits, which would be the way in which we've set this up, is that when we generate the outputs, we're still doing the annual flow, and we're doing an average of the impacts. And so what you're going to get out of IMPLAN is a set of numbers for a single year, and that's actually going to be your average annual impact, and then you would have to multiply that by the number of years that you're looking out at. With REMI, of course, you need annualized changes to put in there, and it'll give you an annualized stream of impacts. Okay. You're also you can run, with REMI, you can upload and run all of your regions and all of your variables in a single batch and do one run. With IMPLAN, there's some limitations in terms of the number of regions you can do in a single run, and that limitation is 5. So if you're doing a project-specific analysis, a lot of times that's not an issue because you're probably not going to be impacting more than 5 counties at one time unless you have one of your larger MPOs and you want to do the whole MPO region. So with IMPLAN, the way it's set up is if you have data in there for less than 5 regions, it's going to give you the input for all of your regions. And you can run those all in one run. If you have input in there for more than 5 counties, then what it's going to do is take the 5 counties with the largest impact and let you run that. Okay, so that's really being dictated by the limitations of the economic software more than anything else. Okay, so with Mississippi, they have the REMI model. So again, this is doing all the calculations, getting the data organized in a way that's going to be necessary to generate the input for REMI. So then we would proceed to step 5. The first step, step 5 is or step 4 are the truck, are the auto inputs. Step 5 are the truck inputs. And so then we go to step 6A. And this is where, this is the format of how REMI reads something in. So we run the saving macro here. And so what this is going to do is it's going to save your overall model spreadsheet under your in the model save path that you told it to, using the project name. What that does is it allows you to keep a clean version of your model, so that you're not overwriting that clean version of the model. And then it will also generate the REMI input file, which is going to be a text file. And it will save that in the REMI input file. For M-Plan, it'll do the same thing, only once again, you will have told it where to save it. It's just that the files look different. And I actually, okay, so this is just our original input sheet. So we've already used that, so we can close it out. So what we can do now is, remember I told it to go to the training. This is where I told it to save it. So now we have the FEAT Econ Model August 3rd test. That was my project name, so it saved that. And then the REMI input with the same project name. Or actually,
that screen's black. We're not seeing what you're seeing.
My screen actually went back to showing the... Bruce, are you on? Because now I'm just seeing the host information screen. I'm wondering if Bruce lost connection since he's the host.
No, I'm still here. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Well, are you guys seeing my file folder?
No, we're not seeing anything. We're just seeing a gray box. What I'm going to do, Paul, is I'm going to take control back from you and give it back to you. Can you just give me control back, Paul, and I'll give it back to you?
Yes, okay.
So what do y'all see now? Just a gray screen?
Black screen.
I mean, I'm seeing the host screen, like the first one, freeconferencecall.com. It says host information. It's got the ITTS logo.
All we see on this end is the screen for participants. It says dial-in number, access code, and then it's black. When you went from the sheet, the REMI input sheet, and you said, here's where my files are, we didn't see anything from that point on.
Okay. All right, Bruce, are you going to try to make me presenter again to see if we can correct it?
I can't even get to the log on button. It's like it's froze up on my end. Hang on a second.
Oh, that may be the problem. Then you froze it.
I'm frozen. Yeah, I know. Let me just restart it. I mean, it's like I can see it. I just can't get to the screen. What do y'all see now?
Same thing. Bruce, we see your desktop now.
Okay, yeah, okay, so trying to get to Paula's. It's like I can't get to the screen to give you back control, Paula. Let's see. That is weird. I can see it here.
I just requested a control from you. Maybe if I send you a request.
That's it. Request control over your keyboard and your mouse. Yes. That's how I control my computer. That's not really. Okay, let me just. We're going to stay on the call. I'm just going to close this window out and restart it. I'm going to leave the meeting.
We have to all log back in then?
No, you should still all be on. I just got to restart my video screen. Like, for instance, I'm a host. It's already working. You should see a screen that says checking server.
No, persuade the presenter to share.
Let's see, Paula. Okay, I'll send it back to you, Paula. You see, I see the screen now. Do y'all see it?
Woohoo! Yes, we do.
Okay.
We'll blame Paula for this one, not me, obviously.
No, I think you froze it up. So anyway, so it did save. It had closed down the model, but it had saved it here with the training August 3rd, and it also saved the REMI input. So I've reopened the model, and now just to open up the REMI input file, this is what it looks like. Now, I've been working with REMI, I don't think Mississippi, they were on Tuesday, so they're aware of this issue, but because of the version of model that they have, it's printing out too many lines because they don't have as many regions as, for example, Georgia does. So we have to make sure that we present enough lines to capture all of Georgia. So the fix that REMI gave us is a manual one. They are working on an automated fix. It only impacts Mississippi, and it would impact Louisiana since they only have one region. So what Mississippi has to do then is go in and actually delete all of these extra lines within their REMI input file. And then once that's done, they can save that, and then it'll be ready to use. Okay. So I know you guys don't have REMI probably, but we're going to still, I do have.
You went away again, Paula.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's just, I don't.
You still have, there it is, Transite, it popped up.
Yeah. It's just when I'm moving, I think when I'm moving between folders. So.
Yeah. I was like,
okay. So this is the Mississippi REMI model. So what do you do here to start a simulation? So we'll just call this thing August 3rd training. And then you just need to look at as a 2040. If you change that, then it changes the year. But our year is 2040. It's all we have input for, so we're going to leave that on 2040. And then the only thing that they have to do is hit import. And then we just find the folder where we have saved the REMI input file. And click on that and hit open. And what it's doing is it's reading that in there and putting it into the correct policy variable spots within the REMI model. This may have frozen up too. It's not there. Okay, and so then when this pops up, that's when you know that your data has been read into the model. So we've put data, we've made changes to production costs, and we've made changes to consumer spending, fuel and non-fuel. And then these are the various different lines that we've hit down here. So, and then we've had some consumption reallocation. Okay. And then from there, you would hit run. Oh, maybe I do have a key. But I don't have a key. This is not a valid key because this is an old model from where I was doing some previous work. So it will not run for me, but I did have MDOT actually run the model. And they sent me the output over. And it looks like this. So then this is what's going to come out of the REMI model. So once the model runs, then it's going to pop up a results screen, and all you have to do as a REMI user is go up to the export that's in the upper right-hand corner, and you're going to export all tables, and then you're going to save that. Okay, so once it's saved, it will save as an Excel file. You're just going to hit the upper left-hand corner. You're going to copy that. You're going to go back to the FEAT tool, proceed to step B, and paste it into here. Okay, so then once it's pasted, oops. Must need to. Okay. Oh, now it's. Sorry, that was a little hyperlink I was trying to make. I think I hit the wrong thing. Okay. This is the problem. The sheet's gotten so big that can. It's very sensitive when you try to rush it.
Well, I don't think that's limited to Excel spreadsheets. Okay, that was the issue. It didn't have the file wasn't unhidden. So anyway, so then here's a file where we can put in terms of the impact summary parameters. For M-Plan, the good side of being an M-Plan user is your output is already summarized for you when it comes out of the model. So here you actually have this long sheet of results here. For every region, you have all of these variables and everything. So what we've done then is just created a sheet that that will bring it all together. So once again, this I'm not sure what this is still thinking on me. The economic impact summary parameters that you'll see there, and then your economic impact results. So for this particular batch of projects here, it's going to give rise to over the study period from 2017 or from 2020 to
2040, about 257 jobs. I'm going to have to check these. This thing is really finicky on me. Okay. Let's see if it'll go. Okay, so now here we went to the GIS, so we created the GIS tables. So if we go back to here, we had told it to put the GIS tables in the training, and now you're going to see your GIS tables that you would have in there. Okay. And then once you produce that, you have your benefit cost summary report, your economic impact summary report, and then you have your GIS files that you would then go into ArcGIS, and the user guide shows you how to pull these in and actually link these particular files. And it's gotten mad at me. Oh, there's not enough memory. Okay. So the good news is that was wrapping up the on-model file demonstration. Any questions or comments on that?
Paula, a question I had on the tab that where we got to the BCA and the summary of that.
Yes.
We used the travel demand models to get to that position, right?
Correct. So no matter what state you are, if you're using travel demand, and for you, you would have your shift model. So if you had your shift model output and you'd put that into the tool, that behaves exactly the same for all the states.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm understanding.
Yeah. So the only thing that gets different between the states is after that benefit cost, and it depends on whether you're a REMI user or an in-plan user.
But if I was just trying to use this to do my analysis for benefit cost, actually, and give me something I can compare relative projects, I could have really stopped there.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't have in-plan or REMI or TransSearch or whatever I'm using. I can stop right there, right?
Correct. Absolutely, you can.
And that gives me a valid comparison.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The only thing is that, and I hadn't thought about this, but that brings up a good point, Cheryl. If you're not actually going to take it all the way through to the economic impact, is that the auto save buttons only come in whenever you're creating your REMI or your in-plan files. So you would want to make sure that if you're going to stop right there, that you save. So one of the things that you would want to do a save as, or you're going to overwrite your key model.
Okay, that sounds perfect. Thanks.
Okay, I may be able to, before we post the final, I could probably add in the option to save it at that point at the benefit cost and just not close it out, but go ahead and save it to keep you from overwriting.
I think it could work either way, as long as we know to do it. You know,
right.
It might even just be in the manual that says, if you're going to stop here, do this. Because I think we may be able to figure out internally, the BCA is what, in general, we're using for some of our programming discussions. So I think that could help us.
All right, super. All right, any other questions? All right, let's see if we can make this thing like me again. Okay, so now we'll go to the ops model.